My name is Rhiannon. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin with my wife and cats, plural. Spoiler alert. Today's episode, it's early January. Congratulations, we're now in 2026. I am going to be talking about obviously what I'm currently knitting, but also kind of mostly reflecting on 2025 and looking ahead to 2026 as it pertains to knitting, but also I think broadly life, because life impacts our knitting, and our crafting is part of a broader swath of or suite of tools we have to take care of ourselves, to invest in our own joy and that kind of thing. So I'm so glad you're here and watching, and I'm gonna get right into it. So first things first, I have a couple of things on the needles that were all cast on within 2025 and will be carried over to 2026. Now, this is not unusual for me to have a project that spans. I usually do a Christmas Day cast on, so I always have at least that one. I didn't do that this year because I had so many other projects, but I know that my goal right now is to sort of wrap these up, at least the largest one, before I start anything else. So without further ado, the first project I'm going to share is just a little garter stitch blanket. Like I said, I now have two cats. So we have a little kitten who I really hope I'm not going to wake up. And then we have another cat who a minute ago was asleep underneath this blanket, which is why I'm sitting on a chair in front of the couch, because she is an 11-year-old stately lady, and she's been very upset about the presence of said new kitten, mostly just kind of clutching her pearls and being offended at the kitten's behavior. And if she spoke English, I would explain it that, this kitten just fell off the back of a turnip truck. She's got no house training. She's a mess, and she's gonna have to learn. So, I'm just making her a blanket, and this is a really great way to try out new yarn. I wanted to share this in particular because I bought a skein of Rowan Felted Tweed. It's a yarn I've heard a lot of people say great things about. I was always skeptical of just the viscose content. It's like 25% viscose, and I'm a natural fibers girly, mostly for reasons of personal comfort, but I wanted to give it a try. So I bought a ball of it and thought I'll just do some little project and just see how I like it. So I'm knitting with it now, and while it is absolutely gorgeous and it feels okay knitted up, I won't know for sure if I like it and if I think it's worth it until after I wash and block it. I'm probably not gonna have enough to make, a full-size kitty blanket. There's this much, and then there's like, I don't know, a quarter of a skein left. So I'm probably gonna just finish this with other scrap yarns. I just knit a garter stitch square and call it a day. Cats don't care about fancy patterns or anything like that. Mostly, I think in my experience, my cat has really enjoyed texture in a blanket. So anything nubbly, but garter is just as good as like seed stitch or moss stitch or something. So save yourself the trouble, right? So that's one little project. And these little projects are good palette cleansers too. So that's another, vote in favor of that kind of thing. The next project is a pair of socks. So I was working on a pair of Piriri socks, and I went into it not thinking things through well enough, and I cast on a different number because I was doing a fingering weight instead of the recommended DK in the pattern, and then I kind of knit myself into a corner with it. Didn't even like what I was getting out of it, so I went ahead and frogged that project, and I cast on a pair of just like waffle weave conventional socks, because the thing I really want in this pair of socks is to have this Yak Silk Mohair blend on my feet. So I'm happiest doing a cuff down, heel flap and gusset sock with some kind of visual interest. It doesn't matter if it's texture or what. I haven't done colorwork socks yet just because the thought of switching needles and like, I don't know, tension things, I'm just not interested in it, I guess. And mostly when I knit socks, I've said this a million times, I just wear them around the house. Like these are not going to be like for hiking or something, or I don't even wear them to work. So I cast on another sock, which means instead of having one sock done and one started, I now have 3/4 of a sock. I'm not mad about it, but I'm not glad about it. I'll just say that. The final thing that I have on the needles is the Niji pullover. I'm not going into details on these, the last project and this one, because it's really nothing, there's no new information here. It is just, this is a raglan pullover. It's got really cool details along the raglan. It's gonna have a really cool collar. It's gonna have a hem that's split just in the back with like a little cable detail at the split, which I think is super cool. And the neck also is kind of like a very short kind of stand-up collar, almost like a mock turtleneck, but very, very short, with the same like cable split at the back. It's very cute. It's very interesting, and I am almost done with one sleeve. So I want to do the sleeves before I finish the body, because I'm hoping to make this extra long, and I just want to make sure I have the yardage that I need to do that. I will say that this project has sort of been, like a lot of things this year, it's been something I've hemmed and hawed about. I knew I wanted to knit this. I knew I wanted to knit it in this color. I was ready in every way. And I do think that once it's done, I'm gonna really love it. This happens a lot in projects where I get 3/4 done or, something like that. And then I'm just kind of like, But long story short, it's designed to be a very oversized sweater, and oversized is another word for doesn't fit correctly, right? So, especially with raglans, when you have a really oversized sweater, you often have an armpit that is like really low. I live in Wisconsin. I need to put a coat on over my sweater. At minimum, I need to put like a vest on over my sweater. I can't just wear a sweater. And I don't really enjoy the feeling of having an armpit that's halfway to my elbow. I like things to fit my shoulders and arms comfortably, appropriately, kind of a true fit. So I'm sorry if you can hear my older cat, if you can hear my cat Miso chewing in the background. She makes a lot of mouth noises. Anyway, I knit this more true to size for the top half, and I'm A-lining the bottom half so that I still get that. Part of the effect of the oversize is that it's kind of long and slouchy, right? So I'm hoping that it comes out okay. I felt just torn, really, because if I did something that was truly oversized, I think the fit in the shoulders and upper arms would probably drive me crazy. I don't want to lift my arm and have my entire sweater like body come up, which happens a lot when you have, an armpit that's like down to here. So, but I'm also sort of like, is it going to really have the feel of an oversized sweater? And my gauge is tighter than that recommended in the pattern. I think the gauge in the pattern is frankly kind of ridiculous. It's just so loose. I don't know how you could get that gauge and enjoy it. So I think I'm just kind of feeling iffy about this. And that's kind of a theme with a lot of 2025 knitting, crafting, So I'm gonna talk about that a little in my reflections on the year. I don't know, I think I was looking back at past years, and there was one year in particular, 2019, where my knitting was just so frustrating for me. I felt like I frogged half of what I knit. I worked on a couple of projects for a really long time and ended up hating them. Couldn't seem to make any kind of progress, couldn't seem to get to a place of being happy with what I was creating. And I think 2025 has been kind of like that. I'm a more experienced knitter now, of course, so I have the advantage of 6 years of experience on 2019 me, but I still feel like I didn't feel uber successful in my knitting. And one of the things that really stands out to me is that at the end of 2024, I had just a couple little whips to wrap up, and then I was working on a sweater, which was my first like FO of 2025. I was working on that, you know, what they say, monogamously knitting. And then I was for like several months knitting one project at a time. And I was making progress and feeling good about it. And then somehow the chaos crept back in and I kept casting on other things and doing other stuff. So that's part of, I think, why my satisfaction with projects went downhill. So let's look at what I made. So the first thing that I made was the Duchess Crew pullover. This is a sport weight sweater. It's knit in a garter rib with these garter stripes. In the original pattern, the background, I think, is more of the color changing yarn, and then the stripes are solid or something. But I had some Spin Cycle and this Juniper Moon Patagonia, which I had originally bought for a different project that I ended up not really wanting to do. So I did this with it, and I gotta say, this is mostly because it's a drop shoulder and because Juniper Moon Patagonia is the shit. I love wearing this sweater. It is really comfy. The fit is really good. It is, you know, it's got, I would say 5 inches of ease, maybe 6. So it does have quite a lot of like drape and movement to it, but I think the garter rib keeps it springy enough that it doesn't feel like it's like melting off of me. So kind of perfect in terms of things that aren't just like a classic fit. I enjoy the crew neck of it all. I enjoy the way that just like the colors kind of go with everything in my wardrobe. It's a nice length that I wear it with jeans a lot, and mostly in winter I'm wearing jeans and a sweater. Like that's kind of my winter uniform, because I'm often wearing like the kind of boots that are like more functional in snow than being cute. Like those little like duck boot kind of things, and I'm wearing like a puffy coat, and you know, it's cold here and you just have to like dress for the weather. So having sweaters that are pretty and make you feel like, I don't know, like you're not just wearing the same, you know, winter uniform every day is really nice. And this one has been in heavy rotation ever since I finished it. So I am super pleased with it. I did talk before about how I might redo the sleeve cuffs just to make the cuffs tighter. So that would probably involve pulling back a few rows of the sleeve and doing some, you know, more intense decreases. But I'm wearing it all the time regardless, so who knows. The second thing I made, the second like start and finish FO, or maybe no, this is my first start and finish. That was my Christmas Day 2024 cast on. This was my first thing I cast on and finished in 2025. And this is the Traveler Shawl. It's an Andrea Mowry pattern. It is really, really beautiful, big, cozy shawl. It is great for being cozy on the couch, as you can see. It is great for wearing as a scarf, like when you don't mind having a really bulky scarf. And again, the colors are stunning, spectacular, chef's kiss, everything. These are different sock yarns by different dyers that I collected over time, and then I paired it with a really pretty Surrey in a kind of soft gray. So like these yarns were a lot brighter before I hooked them up with the Surrey, but the Surrey is like this soft kind of watery gray, gray green with little bits of purple and like blues, and it's just so gorgeous. And then, you know, it just toned down this like turquoise yarn, or you know, this yarn that was very like bright aqua. So yeah, I love this. I'm really proud of it. I'm glad I have it. It was a little bit of a tedious knit toward the end, but it was such a good like project knit. Like I wanted it. I had a vision for the colors and I executed that vision. Felt great. The next thing I finished was sort of like the beginning of the end of my super successful streak, I guess, which was very short-lived because it was really just like those two projects. But I had cast on for the stripe hype sweater. Wasn't loving the construction. So basically with drop shoulders, there's two kind of constructions. One is like it's just a square and then you attach sleeves on the side. And then one is it's more of a T shape and you attach sleeves. And the Duchess Crew is that T shape, which means that the drop shoulder drops even lower, right? Because it's like, you imagine if you had a t-shirt and then you sewed an extra sleeve onto it, that seam would be pretty low. And it's fine, but I don't like it as much as just doing a square, because I feel like by the time you knit something with 2 or 3 inches of ease for your torso, you kind of have enough of a drop, in my opinion. This could be my body, because I guess my shoulders are like relatively small to the rest of me, or I don't know. But anyways, I just wasn't liking the way it came out. The colors were not working. I feel like half of the colors I had were working, half weren't. And so I ended up frogging it, and I knit this instead, which is another sweater hug. It's a pattern by Skandir Knits. I've used it as like a base pattern to knit other things. This is the 3rd time I've used this pattern, and it's really good. And you know, I definitely wear this one a lot. It's very it's just like very kind of classic, goes with everything, you know. And it pairs well with like a more colorful scarf. So I ended up getting a really successful project out of this, but I do feel like the process of making it was a nightmare, because I went through so many iterations of trying to make it work. And I had used this this yarn, the white, which is like a oatmeal color, as the base for the stripe hype, and was knitting it with blues and purples, and I couldn't really see it with any other color. And then I thought, I'll just do black. And then I had to go and find the perfect shade of black, because the brand of yarn that this was, which I can't remember right now, didn't really go with, I couldn't find the right black. So I had to find another brand of yarn that was like almost the same weight and the right shade of black to make it pop, you know. I didn't want to do, oh, you know what? I think this is the Fiber Company Lore, and then this is West Yorkshire Spinners Croft DK. So, I mean, you can kind of see that the Lore, the row gauge is a bit bigger on the Lore. The white stripes are bigger than the black stripes, but overall, successful project. Overall, I'm happy with it. I think, you know, I managed to salvage the Nightmare project and turn it into something that's like truly wearable and gets used a lot. So that is good. And I'm glad to have this in my wardrobe. So speaking of a successful project, the next thing I knit, not a success. I'll just say that. Did I execute it? Yes. Am I happy with it? No. Is it something I'm gonna wear? Probably not. This is my High Time top. I knit this because I was going to a concert and I wanted something with a little bit of a like Western wear vibe, and so the fringe on this was just really cute. I liked the idea of doing it in 2 colors to have I don't know, more visual interest, and I also wanted to use yarn that I had in stash. This is a cotton linen blend yarn, and the yarn is fine. Nothing wrong with the yarn. However, I had bought this yarn for another project, ended up not liking it, frogged it, made this, wore it to the concert, so it served its function. But I honestly just don't like this. I don't like it. It's not me. It's not, it feels novelty-ish, and I don't knit novelty stuff. I don't like novelty stuff. I like practical stuff. So having a black and white striped sweater, having a, you know, like a blue sweater that matches everything in my wardrobe, having a really soft, luscious shawl that will keep my neck warm in winter. These are things, these are wins for me, right? Like I will wear them, I will use them. They seamlessly integrate into my life and serve a function. Whereas this, it's like trying to make fetch happen. So this is my first like full-on failure of the year. And I think I honestly wore it to the concert to spite myself, but I think the problem is I see patterns and I like the way it looks in the pattern, and it's just the pattern photos have good vibes or whatever. And then I get this idea in my head that this is something I really have to make. And then there's the sunk cost fallacy that slips in. And this is where I feel like when things started to get really hard this year, and go off the rails, like, I think I just sort of dug my heels in and was like, I have to finish this thing. So it's not even worth saying anything else about it. Okay. Follow that up then with a ranunculus, which was a total surprise to me, but like I cast it on, because I was working on this sweater, the pearl sweater, which I'll talk about in a minute. And was like, I want to knit 2 sweaters with similar construction in tandem and then just see, you know, how that goes. But I ended up like whipping through this and I made it, and it is so cute and so wearable, and it goes perfectly with this one dress that I have. And I get compliments on this sweater. I love it. It really surprised me because I also knit it with some yarn that had been sitting in stash for a really long time. It was a weird quantity that was like, I didn't think would be enough for a sweater, but it turned out to be okay. Now this is a sweater with I will say these are not like full length sleeves. They are bracelet length or whatever, which I think is really cute, especially on a cropped sweater. Like, it's just chic. And you know, I think it's a superwash merino, so you can see it's pilling like crazy and I need to like depill it. But overall, a pretty successful project, and one that I just like busted out really fast. And then I was like, okay, so once again, I am on this bandwagon like 3 years after everyone else, but I get the appeal of the ranunculus. I get the appeal of sweaters with this construction because it's easy and it's fun, and you kind of get the best of both worlds for shaping. I would definitely knit that pattern again. So yeah, I think actually I skipped this project. So I should say this one I think happened before both of the last two. So this is my Lotus Tee, and this is a pattern that had been in my queue or on my like wish list for many, many years, like maybe even like 9 years or something, like a really long time. And I finally found the perfect colored yarn that I was like, I want this for this, it's gonna happen. And it was one of those projects I knit monogamously. It was, I think, a smashing success. I wore it a lot this summer. It's really pretty. I will say one like caveat before if you're thinking about knitting it, is just that the lace work is like pretty low on the bust, so you might want to consider either well, you might just want to think that through if that's something that you're comfortable with. I don't think it's too bad when you wear it, but it does just sort of like yeah, like everybody's like upper chest length is different, and I've seen some people where this falls like well under the bust apex, and so I think that's just like a consideration. You can just throw camisole on under it and call it a day, but I really love wearing this cotton merino blend like as a next to skin garment. So yeah, huge success. This was knit with Gems Luxe yarn. Yeah, and I said cotton merino blend. So very successful. If you hadn't noticed, there is a bit of a color theme for 2025 happening. Everything is blue. And I did a year where I intentionally tried to knit everything blue, and I don't even think I did as much blue stuff that year as I did this year. I don't know. It is what it is. Okay, so one of the, I guess the second to last project I want to talk about is this sweater that I'm wearing right now. This is the Pearl Sweater by Santa Fe Allen Knitwear. It was a journey. It's a very tiny gauge. It's a very thin yarn. It's an extremely comfortable thing to wear, and it fits like a charm. I think the sleeves fit exactly how I want sleeves to fit. The shoulders fit exactly how I want shoulders to fit. It's a length that is good for tucking in, but if you wear it untucked, it's also like, it's a nice length, you know? I'm tucking it, I'm French tucking it today. I'm French tucking it today just because I think, I don't know, it feels right. The sleeves are nice because they're not so loose that I feel like I'm getting like a ton of air in there, but they're also loose enough that I can pull them up, push them up, which I am a sleeve pusher upper. I love it. So total win. And I immediately bought yarn to make a second one. The second one, I bought some Knitting for Olive Merino in the licorice colorway. So it's just like a black, but I'm totally gonna make a second one in black. I might do a folded over collar on that one just to make it even more special. I don't know, but like I love this sweater. It fits like a dream. I can't say enough good things about it. And I didn't do any modifications. I may have made some mistakes that then became modifications, but I didn't really do any modifications. And kind of the beautiful thing is, I don't know if it's because I'm similar like height proportion to the designer, but right when the charts ran out for like the sleeves and the garment length, the body was kind of the perfect length. Like I didn't even have to like think about, oh, do I need to add a couple charts, or, you know, like, do I need to like add a couple more rows? It just worked out perfectly. So for me, that's a keeper of the pattern. Okay, one more thing I didn't mention that I have completed now, which was like 2025 project, is that baby blanket that I was working on for a long time. So it is a big garter stitch rectangle. There's not much to see here, but it's big. I just need to gift it. Okay, so before I start talking about 2026 plans, 2026 projects, knitting stuff, I just want to reflect on the year as a whole. I think a lot of people feel the same way, that 2025 was just an awful year. We're really glad it's over. And I want to just talk through some of that because like I said before, I think it impacted my crafting a lot. And then in return, my crafting impacted my stress levels. So when I'm having a great time, or when things are going well in the world, I feel like crafting is fun. It flows easily. I have a clear sense of what I want to make. I make time for it. I do a good job of pacing myself, and crafting really is a source of joy and like a way to recharge. And when things are not going so great, it's easy for crafting to become something else, like an additional source of stress, like an additional thing that isn't going well in my life. I don't take the lumps in stride the way I would otherwise. And that is something I'm reflecting on a lot. And as I think about 2026 knitting plans or making plans, so just like to recap, I would say, you know, one of the important things is that I had a lot of health ups and downs. It's now more up than down, so thank goodness for that. But I'm going through a period of life that is just challenging. Yeah, I think, you know, I've been trying to talk really honestly about it because I think there isn't enough information out there. And right now there is more information out there because ordinary women are talking about it more. But it's perimenopause, and it's something that I didn't know was as common. I thought it was a rare thing for people to have all of this sort of bodily shifting craziness stuff. But basically, like the first half of the year, I was extremely fatigued, and it turns out that I needed a higher dose of estrogen and progesterone. I went back to a doctor that I had seen a few years ago, and who is really the best OBGYN I've ever had. She explained kind of the science behind it, and like why, you know, she categorized my symptoms as estrogen withdrawal. Within a couple days of being on a higher dose of hormones, I feel like everything changed, and my life is way better, but I also am still dealing with a lot of other things that are causing me stress. And one of those big ones is just like what a horrible year I had work-wise, not because of the work itself, not because of the people I work with, simply because I work in a sector that is slow motion collapsing right now, and that's the nonprofit sector. It is an employer for like 10% of working Americans, so it's a really big deal for this entire sector to be collapsing. But it's just been, trust me when I say it's just been horrible. On top of that, there's just like a lot of stuff happening in the world that's like not good for my mental health, although my mental health is the least of our worries when you put it in context of like who's being hurt. So it's just been a hard time to be a woman, to be a queer person, to be someone who got married before it was like federally recognized, legal, and then to think like, could that status be taken away? It's been a really hard year for Latinos, and once again, society at large doesn't really care how we're feeling. They just want our votes, and they think we're all alike. So it's just been a really, really rough year. And I think, you're probably, as you're watching this, reflecting back on all the things that really fucked you up inside this last year. It's just been really, really hard. And I think that is part of why I think crafting hasn't been so much a source of joy for me, but it has been a bit of a lifeline where I feel like this is how I connect to people. This is one of the ways that I can experience community in a meaningful way. And it forces me to get out of the house when I'm more inclined to just like lay down and be sad. And it forces me to look at something other than my phone. So that's great. And to talk about things other than politics. And I have had some moments where, I get together with friends for knitting and we go, let's not talk about politics tonight. Like we just can't do it. So I think, the silver linings are worth mentioning too. One of the things that's been, I think, a real lifeline for me in 2025, and that I will be taking that energy with me into 2026, is arts and entertainment. I have leaned on arts and entertainment, and that's like books, music, podcasts, television and movies, and basically everything in that, like other people's creativity that I get to consume then. It has been such a lifeline for me, and I think throughout my life this has been a way that I have got through some really hard times, but I'm trying to recognize that there were all these great things that happened. And like, one of the big ones for me is how much like music carried me through this year. I saw some incredible concerts of artists that I really, really love. There were like new albums that came out. I think Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance, and then coming off of the rap battle beef of 2024, which was sort of my way of disassociating from the election and being excited about something else, taking that energy in and then releasing GNX this year, it really gave me something to hold on to. And I feel like when during the last rodeo with this particular rodeo clown, Kendrick had released Damn, and that album got me through a very hard time as well. So that was really wonderful. I think also like books have been such a big part of this year, notably the Wolf Hall trilogy by Hilary Mantel. I felt like reading about Thomas Cromwell's journey and questionably martyrdom for his faith was something else, you know, and like really gave me perspective on the moment we're living through, and also took me totally out of reality. So it was such a beautiful thing. I had a lot of things that went well, and even though I feel like crafting wise it didn't go so great, I think there's a lot of like lessons to be learned. So really looking at 2026 now, I think one of the most important lessons that I'm gonna carry forth with me is that 2026 is not the year for me to put pressure on myself to start a new craft, to finish all the things, to knit exclusively from stash, to really to create kind of arbitrary rules around how I craft. I think it is a year to follow my bliss and to remember that if I don't enjoy something, I can just stop doing it. Like I can literally just be like, frog it, throw it aside. No one gives a shit. It's not my responsibility to finish every project I start, and it's not like anyone is counting on that, you know? So like let go of that self-imposed perfectionism. So I know that I want to do some accessories in the short term, and I think hats are always a nice like easy win. So in terms of actual projects, I'm going to be knitting Summer Lee's, what's it called? Now I don't know the name of it, and now I feel stupid. Hibernal hat with this hedgehog tweedy. So one of my friends is actually knitting the same thing in the same color, and I saw her hat and it looks great. So I'm stoked to be doing that. I also have a really great ribbed beanie that I did by holding a fingering weight double, and I'm going to take this beautiful hand-dyed yarn. This is by Dodo and Ducky, and it's called Garden Spot. That's the colorway. I'm gonna take this beautiful hand-dyed yarn and either find like a pattern that's like for a fingering weight ribbed hat, or just hold it double and do the DK one that I did before, because I really like that pattern and it came out really well. So this is gonna be like a nice, like happy project. Happy to look at these colors. They're joyful, they're colorful. They're kind of springtimey, which will be nice because I have hats that are like navy and like a twilight dusky purple gray and like white and things that read more winter. But what I don't have is like these hats for, you know, February, March, April, and it's still snowing. So that's going to be great. I do want to pay more attention to color this year and just think about what I can do differently. What is going to bring me joy, really? What am I feeling in that moment versus what do I feel like I have to make or that I need to have or whatever. I know I want to knit some cardigans. I've been talking about that. And I want more like fingering weight stuff, like sweaters, tops, because like I was saying, this Lotus tee is like so delightful to wear. It's a great like transitional season piece. And so is this one. Like it's really comfortable, and even when it's like really cold, I just put a coat on over it and get a scarf and it's good. So it's great for layering. So that's kind of where I'm at with my crafting knitting goals. You know, I had started a Battenberg blanket earlier this year too, and that I knew was going to be like a multi-year whip. So I probably will work on that a little bit in the coming year, but I don't anticipate finishing it, and I certainly don't want to put pressure on myself to like think of it as like a 2-year or 3-year project. Like it's going to take however long it's going to take. yarn doesn't go bad. So, you know, it's just gonna sit there and be there for me when I'm like feeling crochet vibes. And it's okay if it takes me like 8 years to get really into crochet, right? Or to get good at it. Like, who cares? Again, no one cares but me. And I don't even really care when I think about it. So I guess, yeah, like I think that's sort of how I'm thinking of the next year, is just like the only boundaries that I want to put on my making are really the boundaries of self-protection, stress alleviation. Does this truly make me happy right now? Am I knitting something because I feel obligated to finish it, or is this like something that I want to be knitting right now? And if all I want to knit is like garter stitch blankets for my cat, that's okay. Okay, another thing I'm gonna just throw out there, or two more things I'm gonna throw out there. The first one is creating like a list. I'm calling it like a advent calendar. I don't know why, but I'm kind of trying to create a list of things that I'm going to look forward to in the coming year, like, and plot it out. Like in January, these things are going to happen. And then in February, these things are going to happen. And the reason I want to do that is because I think just like having a reminder that there's something to look forward to, even when everything is, feels like it's blowing up around you. I think it's a good practice, and it's like, it's kind of like a count your blessings, but in reverse, like anticipate your blessings, you know? And I think I think that's like a really important thing to be working on. So I already know, like, I'm gonna have my 15th anniversary of being with my wife this year. Like we count that from our first date, right? So like we went on our first date 15 years ago, and so that's like a really cool thing. We're gonna honor that like in a special way. And I know I've got like fiber festivals that are gonna come up. I have a sibling who's gonna be moving here, and like we're gonna be, I think, hanging out more, probably go to like more Brewers games. So I've got really into the Milwaukee Brewers this last year and realized that I actually enjoy baseball quite a lot, which is great because my brother is like a big baseball fan. So I think it's gonna be fun to just be like kind of reconnecting and to be living in the same city as a sibling after not having done that for a long time. You know, like we've been kind of reconnecting over the past few years, and you know, he's visited here and stuff. And so it's just kind of like, it's going to be different and interesting, and I'm looking forward to that. I actually got called up for jury duty next year or this year, 2026. And let me just tell you, I love to judge. So this is going to be really fun. I've always wanted to do jury duty, and the only times in my life that I've ever been called for jury duty before was when I was moving from California to Oregon, and then I couldn't do it because I had moved. And when I moved from Oregon to Wisconsin, and I couldn't do it because I had moved. And I was like, what the hell? Like nobody, like I literally want to judge people so badly. Like, please call me for jury duty. I will use my PTO. I do not care. I just want to be in a courtroom making judgments, okay? Like, this is something I've just like always wanted to do. And I also feel some kind of way about like, just like the idea of doing our civic duty right now, because it's, yeah, it's important and it's meaningful, and so I'm excited for that. You know, I'm excited for just like, you know, little milestones of next year. You know, we always do a big barbecue for 4th of July and invite like tons of people, and then everyone's just like in our backyard. You know, it's gonna be great. You know, gardening, probably February or March, we'll be starting seeds indoors and all that kind of stuff. So there's like things to look forward to. One of the things I'm really looking forward to, and I want to like end with this because it's something I've been thinking about for a while, is I want to start talking about books in separate videos. I've done this once or twice maybe. I know I did a video all about like my very favorite author, Umberto Eco, and all the books I've read and which ones were my favorites and why. But I have a TBR right now that is like 20 books at least. I think I have more to say about some of them. Another thing that I'm like super stoked for in 2026 is that AMC's third season of Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles, which will be The Vampire Lestat, is going to be coming out. And I'm going to be insufferable about this. I'm promising you this now. I have been a huge fan of The Vampire Chronicles, and it comes and goes in waves. But I will say I was like a sophomore in college when I started reading them, and I like blazed through more than half of the series. And then I was like flipping out in like 2014 or 2013 when Anne came back and wrote Prince Lestat, and I was like, there's another Vampire Chronicles book. Oh my God, you know, like it had been a while. And I like somehow in the last 10 years, I sort of like stopped rereading them. And then I did a really bad thing, which is when we moved to Wisconsin, I like destashed a lot of books and I got rid of all of them. I had all of these like hardcover editions. Anyways, it's neither here nor there, but what I'm saying is I'm recollecting all the books because of the TV show. I am now rereading all the books, and that's the thing I'm excited about because I've never actually read all the books in order. And I haven't even read like Prince Lestat and the Realms of Atlantis, which is like the last book. And I never read the Mayfair Witches stuff other than Merrick. So I'm going through and I'm rereading, or I'm, you know, most of them are rereads, but some of them are not. It's just like a first time read. I'm going to read all of them in order. And I think I'm going to have a lot to say about them. And I'm also reading, you know, a bunch of other books that are exciting, or I have a big stack. I have 3 Sylvia Moreno Garcia books right now that are in my TBR. And look, I, again, going to be insufferable about that too. I have a Han Kang book in my TBR. I'm just like looking at the pile right now. I have a book that one of my friends wrote in my TBR, which is really exciting when you get to like be like, oh my God, this is what my friend does for a living. And like, she's so smart. And, you know, you get to like read their stuff. Like that's thrilling. And yeah, I have a goal to read more in 2026 because it's a thing that brings me a lot of joy. It's a really important practice, I think, because when I'm knitting, I'm often listening to a podcast, watching YouTube videos, you know, knitting a bit and then, you know, looking at my phone for a bit. But when I'm reading, I'm really in it. Like it is like a full body experience. And often I will, you know, go somewhere, like I will lay in my hammock and read, which is like really nice, or I'll take myself to a cafe and read. So I'm like having this like full body experience of being like, I'm not engaging with the world around me. I'm like absorbed in this world that's in these pages. And that is so good for my mental health, for my like overall well-being. So I'm very excited to read, and I think I just need to make separate videos. And then that way too, when I talk about what I've been reading, I think I can go ahead and just like do one book at a time, and maybe those will be shorter videos. So yeah, that's I think all for now. I'm sure I could say more about what I'm looking forward to next year, but hopefully I'll be recording a little more frequently than every other month, and I'll be able to share updates with you as I go along, because I think it's a year to really protect my peace. And I hope that you also will think about ways that you can protect your peace in 2026. All right, thank you and Happy New Year.